All right, let's go to the latest NBA trade and free agency rumors, and let's talk DeAndre Jordan. He is the main takeaway from that Gortat trade. Because Gortat's now with the Clippers, that tells me that DeAndre is ready to roll, to opt in, and then facilitate a trade, perhaps to the Dallas Mavericks, as you see on your screen. So Mark Stein of the NBA, or the New York Times, said the Mavs are among potential landing spots here, and there's some history between DeAndre and the Mavs. In 2015, you may recall, Jordan reached a verbal agreement with Dallas, but changed his mind last second, and obviously did not end up going to Dallas. He went elsewhere. So now, apparently, Dallas is willing to forgive DeAndre and say, look, come on over. Mike Fisher of 24/7 Sports saying that Dallas has decided to, quote, let bygones be bygones. And we're talking about 3 years ago. So I would hope so if you're Dallas. Now, DeAndre would earn $24.1 million in that final year of his contract should he opt in, and still have the ability to hit free agency next summer if he does indeed want to stay with the Clippers, which I just don't think will happen now that Gortat is in town now. Now, Stein also noted that an opt-in and trade to the Mavs is, quote, a long shot. He also said that before the Gortat trade happened, so maybe it's not too crazy of a long shot anymore. And the indication that there is an ongoing dialogue between the Clippers and the Mavs is a positive one, because obviously that tells us that the Mavs are okay with DeAndre, no hard feelings with that whole fiasco from 2015. So we'll see about the future with Jordan. Meanwhile, Danny Green exercised his option. According to Woj, he reported that Green exercised that $10 million player option for the 2018-2019 season. It's part of his 4-year, $40 million deal signed back in 2015. Head coach Greg Popovich complimented Green's versatility and said, quote, he's a pretty special guy. So good endorsement there from the head coach. And Green averaged 8.6 points per game, 3.6 rebounds per game, and 1.6 assists per game last season. And Green was debating declining his option, but ultimately decided to opt in, and several reasons for this. Maybe he wanted to stay in the Popovich system, and $10 million is probably higher than his market value. Reports out there, Bobby Marks, more specifically, saying that the projected market value for Danny Green, about $8.6 million. So that's less than what he's getting for this coming season. All right, next up. Did the Lakers' pitch for Paul George get leaked? It certainly seems so. So Sports Illustrated leaked a Lakers voiceover pitch aimed at Paul George, and I'll be honest with you guys, it's kind of cringeworthy. It goes, quote, when you were just a kid in your room, dreaming from Palmdale, where he's from, we were dreaming too. While you dreamt, we built for your arrival. And it's like fingers on a chalkboard as I just read over this voiceover here. Now, it's unclear whether that voiceover will be used in the pitch. I would assume that it won't be because, well, the media has it now. Why in God's name would they use it at this juncture? And the NBA is kind of weird in terms of recruiting, and maybe that's why LeBron James doesn't want these elaborate presentations to come to the next team, because of stuff like this. Now, like I said, I think Paul George is going to the LA Lakers, and maybe all of this voiceover recruiting stuff is for naught. It won't even matter because Paul George has his mind set. But it's kind of interesting to get a glimpse into what some teams are willing to do, folks. Write poems. So there you go. All right, so that's some news there on Paul George as you guys watch the Cam Rogers Show presented by Autolist. We'll thank them one more time. Are you looking for a new or used car out there? Well, I got you covered. Go to Autolist.com to browse the largest source of inventory on the web, or download their top-rated mobile app for iPhone or Android today. Next up on the list, interesting story here. The Rockets are inquiring about free agency and draft time and their dates being changed. So the Rockets say NBA free agency should start 1 week before the NBA draft. Now, it's the first team, by the way, to actually propose the change. And according to these reports out there, some prominent GMs are on board with this. And supporters are beginning to outline a calendar of the flow, if you will, from free agency to the NBA draft. Now, supporters are saying that it would allow teams to use cap space more efficiently, increase trade activity at the draft, which I understand. I get the logic. Like, you get through that initial wave of free agency, and if you don't get the big ticket item or items that you want out there, then you have a better idea of what you have to do during the draft and fill out those needs. So just imagine if we already knew the decision for LeBron James and Paul George and DeAndre Jordan and whomever you want to throw out there. Then teams have an idea. Like, okay, I got LeBron. Maybe I don't need to get X player or X player, and I can get Y player or Y player, to use algebra to kind of explain myself here. So critics, meanwhile, say if free agency precedes the draft, the two may overlap and divide a team's attention. Now, I get that perspective too, but I would think a week of NBA free agency being over, I would say the prominent players would probably already have their decisions made and contracts signed. So I don't know if that really matters. But I do understand that because, look, you're focusing on free agency while you are also making selections at the NBA draft. So two sides to this story, no doubt about it. Actually kind of curious what you guys think about this proposal. Do you want free agency and the draft dates changed? Hit me up in comments. Let me know what you think about that. All right, let's get to the next storyline on the list here. The Nuggets have declined the option for Nikola Jokic. It's a $1.5 million team option. This makes Jokic a restricted free agent and now allows him to sign a long-term deal with the Denver Nuggets, which is expected to be a 5-year, $147 million maximum contract. That's a lot of money, going from $1.5 million for one season to 5 years, $147 million. So you look at the stats from last year, 18.5, I should say, points per game, 10.7 rebounds per game, 6.1 assists per game. Good player, very much a part of the offense for the Denver Nuggets. It's just a lot of money in my eyes. Now, if Denver hadn't declined the option, would have went into unrestricted free agency in 2019. All right, so if they get that 5-year deal done, that cements Jokic there with the Denver Nuggets for some time. So good news there, I would think, for Denver fans. All right, so next up on the list here, how about Enes Kanter? All right, apparently there's a lot of interest out there. 5 teams worth for Enes Kanter. Now, here's the deal. 5 have shown interest if he opts out of his contract with the New York Knicks. Now, Kanter loses $18.6 million if he opts out of that contract. So the teams interested probably will have to have a lot of salary cap space, you would think, or sign him to a mega deal, like long-term, to space things out a bit. Now, Kanter said David Fizdale joining the Knicks makes him want to stay even more. Met with Fizdale for 2 hours during the Chicago Draft Combine back in May, which is very telling. And Kanter told the New York Post in a phone interview, quote, "With Coach Fizdale, I want to stay even more." So it doesn't sound like Kanter is going to opt out, but he did say he's going to make his decision on the last day. So that means Friday. And Kanter has said on multiple occasions that he wants to be in New York, he wants to play in Madison Square. And hey, if you are Kanter, why not let the Knicks sweat it out a little bit, right? Wait until Friday and then eventually say, you know what, I'll opt in and go from there. But maybe you get some buzz out there that teams are willing to shell out a good amount of money for Enes Kanter. I can't imagine that they would, but him returning to the New York Knicks seems to be the most likely scenario going forward for him.